What's the scariest theory known to man? As an astronomer, I feel like I always pop into these threads to clarify theories people saw on a documentary once. So here's one that freaks me out a little, that the universe is a false vacuum. This is, in short, a theory scientific hypothesis that our universe is actually in a false phase state as part of a larger universe, like if it were in a temporary thing. Think the real universe is a pot of boiling water, and we are just within a bubble forming at the bottom of the pot. Eventually, however, that false vacuum has to pop, yes, even after billions of years in this false state, and we and everything we know in our visible universe will disappear in an instant with no warning whatsoever, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sweet dreams. The Great Filter. It's a theory about why the universe seems so filled with potential for life, and yet we haven't found it. It states that somewhere between pre-life and an advanced civilization capable of colonizing the stars, there's a great filter that stops them and ends life. This means humans fit into one of these three scenarios. A. We are rare, meaning we've already passed the great filter, unlike other civilizations on other planets. B. We're the first, meaning conditions in the universe are only now life-friendly, and we are among many on our way to the capability of colonization. C. We haven't hit the filter yet, meaning we're fucked. If this one is true, it means finding life or proof of life on Mars or Europa would be awful news, because it would almost certainly mean the filter is still ahead of us instead of behind us. I forget the name of the argument, but it goes as follows. Assumptions. The brain is the origin of all consciousness. The brain operates on electrical impulses. External stimuli can affect the way the brain operates. Any external stimuli to the brain can be simulated to a degree that the brain cannot distinguish these simulated stimuli from natural stimuli. The point, you could be a brain in a jar, being fed false impulses for your entire life by an external source, or you, still a brain in a jar, could be hallucinating your entire life from lack of stimuli. A bit late, but here it is. You might never be alone. Imagine if there was a 2D person. If you stare at them a certain way, they can't see you. All you have to do is look from a top view, and they won't know you're there, and they would never know. And living their life as 2D, they would never be able to comprehend how something could be looking down on them. Now imagine a 4D person. They could be looking at you from a 4-dimensional angle, an angle that you will never understand. They could be right beside you, but you wouldn't know, and you would never know. And just as we could interact with the 2D person, the 4D person could interact with us. But as long as they don't want us to, we could never interact with them, yet even know of them. TLDR. So, when you think you're alone, there could be something right next to you, staring at you, and you will never know. Terror management theory. Everything that humanity has ever accomplished beyond basic survival has been motivated by a fundamental and irreducible fear of non-existence. Our conception of self and self-esteem generally is simply a buffer against the anxiety that comes with recognizing that we will cease to be. Culture is just a massive shared delusion to mitigate our fear of the unknown and ultimately of death. Thus we want to imagine certain works of art as timeless or to place value in family lines and offspring, to project ourselves beyond death. We take comfort in our value systems and the structures that arise from them, whether that's through conceptions of biological kinship, national political identity, religious faith, etc. This includes belief in the inherent value of ensuring the future of humanity through scientific progress. Indeed, much of modern Western life is devoted to the avoidance of death, the various euphemisms and stock phrases in mourning, the entire funeral home industry that serves to remove death from the ordinary course of life, from the home, and onto the embalming table, or into the crematorium. We build up the artifice to avoid the brutal reality. There are no turtles at the bottom, it's nothingness all the way down. Rocco's Basilisk. A super intelligent AI will determine how to retroactively punish those who did not help it come onto existence. A supercomputer in the future will kill you today for not helping it 10 years from now. We are currently living through what many biologists consider to be the 6th mass extinction that the world has ever seen. This is going to be an interesting puzzle for the species that comes after us. Can you explain this a bit more? I'm really interested, but I'm not sure I understand. It wasn't until around the year 1800 that humanity reached a population of 1 billion after thousands and thousands of years. In the 215 years since then, the world population has increased to 7.2 billion. That exponential growth has very large and long-lasting negative effects on our planet and will continue to do so until we reach carrying capacity and die off. Eternal hell. It's literally the worst thing any human can imagine, that by being a bad person you will be condemned to torture for an infinite amount of time. You might be able to reason that it's justifiable to be tortured for as long as you lived, or some algorithm related to such, but eternity is overkill for the sins committed during a unimaginably minute sliver of time. If you get deep into particle physics, you start to realize that there really is no such thing as solid matter. Everything in the universe appears to be built upon waves of vibrating energy, and if you look deep enough at anything, there's really nothing there at all, and we don't actually exist as matter in space-time in the way you think we do. This concept supports a smorgasbord of fantastical theories: the idea we live in a simulation, the idea that there's actually a god of some sort, the idea there's multiple universes, some say an infinite number of them, or any number of other interesting ideas. There's a really brutal one I've heard, but can't remember its name. It basically says that every horrible thing you can imagine has been done by someone in the world at some point in human history. I can think of some pretty messed up things, and it creeps me out that they may have been done before. When God and Lucifer had their battle in heaven, the devil actually won and cast out God. Now he is sitting up in heaven, pretending to be God, while he wreaks havoc down here. It would explain a lot. That you will forever relive your own life. It does make a lot of sense, because once you die you don't belong anywhere, not space or time, and you always exist during the time you were alive, so you might just be constantly experiencing it all. Even if your life is good, it is pretty horrible to know that all that you learned will disappear, and every mistake you do anything to take back will be repeated and experienced over and over. But think of most lives, and it gets infinitely worse. And then those that were extraordinarily horrible. Talk about unfair. Quantum suicide / quantum immortality. The idea that we never really die in our perspective. Every time we encounter a situation where we may die, we continue on in a parallel universe where something happens that prevents our death. But we die in the original universe. In a sense, our consciousness lives on by transferring itself to a parallel universe where we continue to exist. The Phantom Time Hypothesis. The Phantom Time Hypothesis is a historical conspiracy theory advanced by German historian and publisher Herbert Illig, born 1947, which proposes that the year 613 was followed by the year 911 and that historical events between AD 614 and 911 in the early Middle Ages of Europe and neighboring regions are either wrongly dated or did not occur at all, and that there has been a systematic effort to cover up that fact. The hypothesis suggests a conspiracy by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto II, Pope Sylvester II, and possibly the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII to fabricate a dating system that placed them at the special year of AD 1000, and to rewrite history, inventing the heroic figure of Charlemagne among other things. This is called the false vacuum death of the universe. It's kinda on line with cold death and heat death, but a lot more sudden. That the universe can be gone in an instant and we wouldn't notice, because we'd get wiped out by another expanding universe. I'll try my best to explain as simple as I can get it. Think of it as a wave. Universe A and Universe B are waves. A is bigger than B due to A being more stable and larger. It swallows up Universe B. With this, we might not even notice. It goes at the speed of light, so we won't be able to see it ahead of time. Star Trek style teleportation will someday be created. It works by taking someone apart and reassembling them at the other end from pure particles. So, what if consciousness did not make the leap? This means every time someone is beamed, they die and are cloned at the other end with memories intact, and then society develops in a direction where everyone is killing themselves over and over, some only living for a few minutes. I don't remember where from, but there's a theory floating around out there that memory is based on entropy, meaning that your brain decays in such a way that everything you've ever done has already been done. Essentially, you had free will at one point, but at the moment your brain is just catching up to the decisions you have previously made. You're just along for the ride now.